government, chieftaincy and religious affairs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. Yes, so I have Joel too with me. Joel, please, can you unmute and introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, good evening, Prince.
Good evening, Joel.
Yes, and then good evening to our other colleagues who have also joined. And then my name is Joel Abekulia. I work with the Health Promotion Division, Ghana Health Service. So I'm responsible for risk communication and community engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, gentlemen. So, if you just joined us, this is the Good Life chat room of the Ghana Health Service. Tonight, we are talking about poor sanitation and cholera prevention with regards to the recent flood that we had in Ghana. It looks like it was all over Ghana, but Accra took the biggest hit. So tonight, to prevent any outbreak or cholera outbreak, we have two gentlemen from Ghana Health Service and one from our local government in charge of sanitation to help us to discuss this important issue. Um, so let me start with Jonathan. The recent flood left many communities with overflowing drains, accumulated waste, and contaminated surroundings. From an environmental health perspective, what should Ghanaians be concerned about? And also, how do flooding and poor sanitation create the perfect condition for cholera and other diseases to spread? Jonathan, can you hear me?
Hello, Prince, can you hear me?
Oh, perfect. Yes, I can. I can hear you now. Jonathan, we can't hear you again.
Prince, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Hello, Prince, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please.
Yes, so I was saying that we've all seen the intensity of rains we've experienced for the past 1 month. And when you look at the intensity of rains, it has disrupted sanitation systems infrastructure. For example, households using septic tanks, our water systems, and our solid waste management infrastructure that we have across the country. You you realize that when there's flooding, flood waters always mix with liquid waste. In fact, there are people living within the country who don't even have access to toilet facilities, and these people practice open defecation, where people can equally, classify or refer to it as a package and throw, where they defecate in the polythene bags and then they package and then they throw it to the nearby bushes or the gutters. When there's flooding, these contents are washed along with the flood waters and gets to people's homes and contaminates our water bodies. There are people who rely on tanker supplies. Ask yourself, how do these people get access to safe drinking water in the midst of flooding? The same flood waters that are running through people's home, running through people's gardens, get in touch with the same source of water that these tanker operators collect the water from. And at the end of the day, they bring the same water to our house and then we pay for the services. Once you are paying for it, you don't even have an idea the source of water that they are bringing to you, and we end up getting infections, diseases from it. When you look at our solid waste management infrastructure that we have, where you see our drainage system getting choked with that rubbish, and people even collect waste from their house and then dispose them in the drainage systems that we have. And then at the end of the day, these gutters will just get choked. When there's a small downpour, then everywhere gets flooded. So, I mean, when you look at the impact of the recent floods that we've had, in fact, there's a lot of pressure on sanitation infrastructure and our waste management systems across the country. And these are the enabling factors for cholera, because cholera just need the risk factors are there. People are practicing open defecation, people are drinking unsafe water, people are disposing waste, indiscriminately. These are enabling environment for cholera to thrive. So once the environment is favorable, you may end up having cholera across the country. So yeah, from the perspective of the environmental health and sanitation, the aspect of safe drinking water, our open defecation rate, even the Ghana Statistical Service, the 2021 population and housing census indicates that 18% of Ghanaians practice open defecation. So there's a huge risk across the country, and we know the potential risk or the enabling environment that makes cholera survives across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. You mentioned the tanker drivers, those who supply water in car tanks. Are the water safe? I mean, we see them a lot in town, and most, even in East Legon, Ashaliboche area, some of the upcoming developing areas, you see them a lot over there. Do you think we are safe in those supplying the tank and those waters?
One thing about water is that you just cannot look at how clean the water is and say that this water is safe. There are water you may have access to water that may look clean to you, but in the context of laboratory, it may be very contaminated. So our recent data issued by the same Ghana Statistical Service, the demographic and health survey indicates that 45% of Ghanaians living in the urban area relies on sachet water as their major source of drinking water. So it means that there's a problem with our water systems that runs to our various homes, because most often you may even see that there's a leakage somewhere. This leakage, when there's a leakage somewhere, it may take this for the service provider to even the utility provider to even attend to such leakages. And by the time they get there, they may have contaminated with other content. There are a lot of people discharging their effluent to major public drains. There are a lot of people doing underground work, and there are a lot of sand that will be entering the same pipelines, and this water also gets into our various homes. So for us to be able to know what is clean and what is safe, we may have to go through a laboratory system to be able to confirm whether whatever water sources that we are taking is safe for our consumption. But it's a major challenge when you look at the intensity of the rains and how these tanker operators are also supplying water to communities. It's a major concern to us. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, if you just join us, this is the Good Life chat room of the Ghana Health Service. We are discussing sanitation and cholera prevention. So if you have any questions or any contribution, kindly drop them in the comment section, and I'll read it to our guests for them to help us answer them. Yes. So, Joel, let me come to you. Jonathan has explained how poor sanitation creates the condition for disease to spread. Once these conditions exist, the next challenge is helping community understand the risks and take action. How has the risks of cholera changed, and why is there so much concern about cholera? Joy, you can unmute and talk, please.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Right. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me? Great. All right. So I think Jonathan has set the ball rolling. That you need the right condition for what do you call it, for the risk factors and then for infection. Right. So this is where the risk is. For instance, he mentioned in terms of how what do you call it, the floods that happen, and then what do you call it, infrastructure in terms of sanitation was also disrupted. So in terms of where people defecate, if they had now, you know that because the flood happened, they will not be able to defecate again and may have to resort to other means. And that is for those who have been able to be moved to safe havens. But those who are not and still are hovering around their homes, that is where we have the risks. Because of course, they might have to find a place where they can be able to, what do you call it, defecate, and then some of them may be resulting to some of the open defecations that we are talking about. And the others, or who were in households that did not actually have places of convenience, will have to continue to do what they used to do. And that is to, what do you call it, to add up in terms of the heightened risk factors. And now you need something that will convey the infection into the human being, because whatever bacteria that it is cannot work on its own. Something has to take it. And that has to do with we coming into contact with some of these risk factors. And of course, because the floods are there, we are always there. We go to buy food from places that we are not too sure about the sanitation or how the food was being prepared or the type of water that was being used, and even how the place is being kept, especially where food is being sold. And then we also have what you call it, circumstances where, in terms of what do you call it, how we do clean our environment, we also have some challenges there. And a lot of people will agree with me that immediately after the floods, there was a lot of debris that were floating around, that I can remember a woman having had education in terms of some of the risk factors, started calling out that the government needed to do something. If not, we're all at risk of cholera. So these are some of the what do you call it, the factors that heightens this, what do you call the risk factors as far as cholera is concerned. Now, in terms of how we get it, of course, so far we have not actually recorded cholera cases. And then normally for cholera to strive, that means that you may have come into contact with what you call the bacteria, which normally is being released by somebody who's infected. And then we haven't had that yet. So that is why we are actually trying to let people know in terms of the risk factors, so that they can be able to know the risk factors and then to know how they can. But having said so, let me just mention get infected, so that at least once we know the mode, we are able to safeguard ourselves so that we do not actually get infected with cholera. So the main thing is usually fecal oral. So when you say fecal oral, you're talking about the fecal, which is more of like the feces, because so somebody getting cholera is more or less like, excuse me to say, like you have taken somebody's poo. And it must normally, once you say oral, that means that you have consumed it. So normally it comes in different forms. So either through water or through what you call an agent, which normally is a fly, which will normally settle on somebody's poo who is infected, or and then settle on food. And then once you also eat it without, heating it, then that means that there is a possibility of you being infected. So that is how the flooding actually increases the risk because, of course, the water would have carried some debris or maybe some, what do you call it, fecal matter from places where people might have gone to defecate. And then wherever it deposits it, and then maybe it's around a place where they sell food, it's around homes, or even around where people go to fetch water, like my brother Joshua, Jonathan was explaining that normally the water that we buy, because you are not too sure about the source. But once you know that maybe the source is coming from water, that is fine. But there are times that they go to fetch from other sources that we do not know. And also in terms of the vegetables that we do consume, because of the water going runs through the tunnel, and most of the times when you go to some of the farms where they grow vegetables, normally they use the water or they pump the water from this, what do you call it, gutters or canals to be able to water the vegetables that we do consume. And because of the flooding, at least there may or might have been some overflow. So the possibility of dumping contaminated stuff into the water might be high, which also increases the risk. So it's important that whatever that we consume, especially around this time, we need to be very, very careful about it. We ensure that the right thing is being done in terms of ensuring that all contamination is being removed before we do consume them. I know you've given me the opportunity to also hammer in terms of how we can prevent it. So I think let me, what do you call it, stop for now, and then back to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you to Joel. We are grateful. Awareness saves lives. The earlier community understand the risks, the easier it is to prevent an outbreak. Share this
Right.
live. So, yes, Joel. Share this live so many people can learn how to protect themselves and their family. Vivian, yes, Vivian, is it Atta? Vivian Atta, you're welcome to our live. Sniper, you're also welcome. Marano, you are welcome. Rana K, you're also welcome. Smart Wife, yes, Idea, you
Yes.
are welcome. You are welcome. And yes, so let's talk about clean up cleaning up safely. Jonathan, so many families are still cleaning their homes and compound after the floods. And just last week, the president also declared a 2-day cleanup exercise across the country. What should households do to clean their homes and surroundings safely? And also, what common mistakes should people avoid during the cleanup process?
Yes, thank you once again, Prince. From last week, Friday, I think from the day there was the president gave the directive that there's going to be a 2-day cleanup exercise. We all saw how all stakeholders, actors, individuals across or within our societies came together to participate in these exercises. In fact, it was one of the most participated activity in recent times. So when you look at the incident that has happened over the past days, of course, there's a huge debris, gutters are getting choked, and etc. When you desilt your gutter, one of the things that people always argue is that when they desilt the gutters, the content is left unattended. And therefore, whenever there's any downpour, the same content goes back into the drain that they even desilted. What happens is that when you desilt your drain, the debris cannot be sent to the final disposal site. We have a disposal site at a Pong, the Pong landfill site. That's where we send major waste generated within the cities to. So major waste generated within the capital city, Accra, is sent to the landfill site. But because of the content of that is taken from the gutter, those debris cannot be sent to the final disposal site. But we have the transfer stations that we sent those to. So, for example, when you look at Kolebu on the Mochu Road, when you are going towards Abusoka, and there's a transfer station, it's called ARCOP, Integrated Recycling and Compost Plant. So that's where these debris are sent to. You cannot send them to the other site because they may need to decompose. And the content, because there's water in it, that's why when you collect, it takes days for the assembly to come and collect them. Because if there's water in it, I mean, the truck cannot even carry much. Therefore, they need to take time for the water to drain out before
Yeah.
they can collect. So when you see the silt or the silted content there, it's not that people don't want to collect, but then there's an approach to the collection of such content. Additionally, when you are, I mean, I saw a lot of people's homes getting flooded with fecal content because of the intensity of the rains. And one of the key things that you can do after cleaning your community or your house, you need to disinfect. So you need to disinfect with chlorine. There's a difference between fumigation and disinfection. People most often, I mean, misinterpret or just tend to go for the other. The fumigation, you are looking at microorganisms. So your focus is on maybe pests, maybe cockroaches, rats, bedbugs. That's where you are doing fumigation. But when you are doing disinfection, you are targeting microorganisms. So you are looking at bacteria, viruses, or fungi. That's why when COVID came, we were using hand sanitizer because you are disinfecting. So you sanitize your hand because of the chlorine content in it. Then we're using chlorine to also disinfect facilities. So if you are disinfecting, maybe the your house got flooded and you've taken most of the things out and you want to go back and occupy the place and you want to disinfect, please don't go for chemicals that are meant for insects. You may not be able to disinfect. You may not get the output you are looking for. At the end of the day, you will come and say, oh, the chemical wasn't even potent. And as part of, I mean, Ghanaians, one thing about us is that for the fact that we can't even smell the chemical, it means that the chemical is not effective. We want to smell that pungent smell and know that, oh, I do with the Juma. That's not how chlorine works. So you need to use chlorine at the appropriate with the appropriate concentration to do your disinfection. So you use the zero point 0.5 to do your disinfection. So you do the formulation and use zero point 0.5 chlorine to disinfect your house. And the moment you disinfect, somebody will ask, I mean, how many hours will it take for me to go back to the place I've disinfected? When you disinfect, just open your windows and allow oxygen to, I mean, and get access. And once oxygen gets access, I mean, you can just come back within the next 15 or 20 minutes, just clean the place and then have access to the same facility. So we need to do that. Additionally, because of the source of drinking water that we are also getting recently, we need to also be more consistent with our boiling of water. There are so many means that we can access, or there are so many options to drinking water. We can do boiling, we can do aeration, whereby you expose the water to sunlight, and once the UV light hits on the water, it settles, the debris will settle beneath the water so that you can just sieve the water and then boil it before you drink. When you boil your water, you kill 99% of the microorganisms that are active in the water. So boiling is one of the effective means of also treating our water. Additionally, we need to, as part of our activities, we all saw the impact the flooding had on our communities. We need to start disposing our waste appropriately. We have designated areas allocated. We have service providers, Abobo Ya people operating within our communities. We have the private sector who gives dustbins and charge community members for the services. We need to start relying on them for such services. Our gutters are not a final disposal site for us, so we generate our waste, and because we will pay a token for the waste to be collected and sent to the final appropriate site, we prefer dumping our waste into gutters, and then at the end of the day, we get our gutters being choked. We need to start doing the right thing. We need to start eating one food because our weather is, climate, our weather is changing. So we need to also look at how we go as a society, we will start eating one food. Whenever you are hungry, no matter where you are coming from, just warm the food. Take some time, warm the food, and ensure that whatever food you are consuming is warm. Once the food is warm, it becomes very difficult for microorganisms to able to, survive in that temperature within that temperature. So these are just some of the key things that we need to be more critical and more, intentional about as a society, because sanitation and environmental sanitation, waste management, any form, it's a collective it's a collective approach. It's not government. Government has a role to play. You as an individual has a role. The state has a role. Any other stakeholder within the community or society also has a role. So, my brother, in a nutshell, these are some of the things that we can focus on, and also ensure that our society and communities become safe from any contamination. Thank you and over.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Someone is asking, do we have some of the waste sent to the plant to recycle?
Yes, so we have I mentioned that we have the integrated recycling and compost plant. So there's a recycling aspect of it and there's a compost. So the organic waste, which we mostly refer to the food waste, the ones that can easily decompose, are the ones that we send to the ARICOP, and then the plastic waste are also sent to ARICOP. And let me also say that across the country we have all the 16 regions have the ARICOPs within those regions, and depending on the waste generation that these regions generate, these components goes to the Aracop facility to be able to also process. Beside Aracops, when you go to Ashaiman, we have the Safisana Ghana Limited. They treat both organic and liquid waste, where they convert these waste into composting, and they have farmers within the Ashaiman municipalities who rely on them to patronize their compost. Because of the processes it goes through, it may be a bit, expensive than the normal fertilizers that we buy. But because these ones are organic, and then the impact is lesser compared to the foreign ones that we patronize. So the cost is a bit higher because of the processes it goes through. But then we don't even have only Aricops. You have a CESA, they do a lot of recycling. You have the Safisana I've mentioned. You have Jakura Ventures. Jakura Ventures within the ministerial enclave, they have ministries that they have an arrangement with where they collect their waste, segregate the waste, and then they add value to the other components of the waste that they collect within these ministries. So yes, we have a lot of facilities. Just that the rate at which they operate, the the feedstock that they need. They need a certain amount, a certain volume or a tonnage of waste to be able to process within a day. So when you look at the generation rate within Greater Accra, we are generating over 5,000 tons of waste per day. So you can imagine. So if you are generating 5,000 tons, and then the capacity of a recycling facility is just 10 tons or 100 tons, so it may take some time to be able to get the see the impact that we are making as a society. So yeah, we do have such facilities available. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for this information. You can also send your comments or your contribution in the comment box, and I'll ask our guests for them to answer them for us. Empress, you are welcome, and Nanake, you are also welcome. So, um, Joel, let me come to you. While environmental sanitation is essential, our daily habits also makes a huge difference. What are some of the biggest mistakes people make after flood that increase their risks of cholera? And also, what simple behaviors should family adopt immediately to protect themselves? Joel, you can unmute and talk.
Yeah.
Okay, we can
All
now
right.
hear
So
you,
thank
Joel.
you so much. I hope I'm clear enough. Yeah, I've already unmuted. I hope I'm clear.
Joel, you are clear. You can go ahead.
Can you hear me? Right. Great. So in terms of the mistakes, let me say they are not really mistakes, but I think these are always concerns that people do have, especially after flooding. Like I did mention in my earlier submission that because of the floods, the way it had conveyed debris from other sources and deposited them, people were actually worried that if action was not taken, there was going to be an outbreak of cholera, which we think that is something that is good because, of course, people are really aware of some of the risk factors. And for that matter, usually when there are instances where they have to take precautions, they are doing so. So, in terms of some of the precautionary measures that families need to take, I think Jonathan already mentioned, and let me just reiterate some. That is important that whatever food that you buy, always insist on food that is hot. And for households, of course, water that you do consume, it's important that you treat it very well. We do have these aqua taps that normally we do distribute to what do you call it, victims or people who have been exposed to flooding, so that at least they can use to purify their water before consumption. It more or less kills the contamination and it makes it safe for them to drink. And we also understand that because of the flood nature, there are times that your place of convenience may have been taken away or destroyed by floods. And then we're also aware that because of where people do stay, sometimes the water table is so high that even if you want to dig a place of convenience, immediately you do that, within the next 2 days, the place is full again with water. So, for that matter, it's important that what do you call it? In terms of where you do go to ease yourself, the most important thing is that normally you go too far away from places that have got water sources, so that at least you can be able to dig and do and then you cover. The reason why you need to stay away from water sources is that when you dig and then maybe you cover any fecal matter, you don't know what happens inside the soil because there may be some seepage that may actually what we call seep into sources of water such as boreholes and stuff. So it's important that we are very careful during flood that whatever water that you are consuming, you make sure that it's been treated before you do that. Now, one other important thing that we need to take note to is washing of hands. Like I mentioned that it is fecal oral, and definitely you may have to consume it before. So it's important that you make sure that whatever they are consuming is, is hot because the virus cannot survive in certain temperatures. So it's important that normally you heat it before you consume, and then you need to also ensure that your hands are washed before and then after toilet. Before eating, before and then after eating, and then also after going to the toilet, you need to wash your hands, and then after attending to a baby diapers and stuff, you still need to ensure that your hands are clean. And very very important that it is. I give an example. For instance, during COVID, you remember we used to wash our hands almost every second or every, and then you realize that we never heard of any cholera infection for a very long time. And that was a dividend that we actually enjoyed because we were very, very religious when it came to how we washed, what do you call it, our hands. So these are some of the important things. And then let me conclude by saying that it's also important that we are wise, so that at least whatever food that we're going, we look at the person surrounding before we buy the food. Because there are times that you and an individual, you cannot actually enforce or force somebody who sells food to adhere to certain, but unless what do you call it, people in authority like Jonathan's institution, who are responsible for ensuring that people, what do you call it, sell food under safe conditions. So, for that matter, you as an individual, it's important that you are wise. You actually study the environment very well. Make sure that there are no flies, and then the person is selling hot food before you buy. So, these are some of the things that I think I want to leave with the households in terms of what they can also do to protect themselves from cholera infection.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joel, for this submission.
All right.
Um, so, huh, I mean, Jonathan, protecting communities go beyond individuals' household. Um, Joel has mentioned some of these, but how do poor waste disposal practice, block drains, and also open defecation contribute to cholera outbreak? If you can rate on some of these for us, and what immediate sanitation measures should every community put in place to reduce the risk?
once again, and I would like to just from where Joel left. Joel made reference to how often we're washing our hands when the COVID came. And when you compare the data from the COVID era to now, only 45% of Ghanaians practice hand washing with soap under running water. It means that there's been a decrease in hand washing practices among Ghanaians because when COVID came, we saw the need for us to wash our hands often. But when the cases went down, then people started saying, oh, what is hand washing? But we need to. Hand washing is the most simplest but effective way of preventing transmissions. The moment you wash your hands, that you've broken the chain of transmission. The moment you wash your hands, it means that the next person may not get the infection that the potential infection that he or she may have gotten. So it is very critical for us to prioritize hand washing, irrespective of the circumstances we find ourselves. If you cannot wash your hand, you need to get yourself sanitizer. So that you can use it at any point in time, because it is very important to ensure that we wash our hands. Back to the issue, as I mentioned earlier, that open defecation is a challenge. In the country where 18% of Ghanaians practice open defecation, and even those who lives in compound house, so they have shared facilities where, two or three people or more than three households within the compound house are using the same facility. And there are even individuals who rely on public toilets. But the truth of the matter is that public toilets are meant for transient population. So people who are traveling and they are pressed and they want to attend to nature school, these are people who are supposed to use public toilets, not individuals living in their households. So the intention for public toilets wasn't for households to use it, but it was for people who are traveling. So, or maybe I came for a program, I went for a wedding at Ashaiman, and therefore I'm pressed, and there's a public toilet. The toilets are meant for such individuals to patronize it, but because of the way our society and our our way of doing things, households are supposed to have their own toilets. Then you have your hand washing stations mounted, or I mean any form of hand washing station that may be available. But I also indicated that the 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 need for communities to subscribe to waste management services. There's always available options. When you look at the scope of waste management operations in Accra, the private sector, the Aboboya people are collecting over 45% of the waste generated, and they are doing it in collaboration with the assemblies. Assemblies have given them areas where they collect the waste, they transport to, they tip off, and they pay for tipping fee. These are the arrangements that exist. So me, for example, me as a householder, if I want to dispose of my waste, I won't wait for the rain to start coming. Then I turn to the left and turn to the right. And when nobody is watching, then I go and pour it in the gutter. When the flood comes, you come and say, yes, buying. Meanwhile, it's our attitude. So we as an individual has a role to play. So we need to ensure that we do the right thing at the right time. We have the fancy laws, we have the best regulations and other things. Enforcement has been one of the challenges that we are facing in the country. And before we can even do so many things, we need to start changing our behavior, attitudinal change. It starts from us, whatever changes we want to see in our society. We need to take that bold step. We need to stop practicing open defecation, because if you don't get the effect, your neighbor may end up getting the effect. If you don't get it, the rain may come, and then the whole community may get flooded. And at the end of the day, you may not be able to even undertake some of the activities that you are supposed to do, and it puts a lot of pressure on our economic output. So, as a society and as a community, we need to move beyond the way of doing things and look at how sustainable some of these things that we are doing will also improve on our society. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to promote public health and ensure that the health of individuals across the country are well guaranteed and safely protected. These are some of the things that we need to have at the back of our mind. When we are doing things, we need to be more conscious, we need to be more intentional, think about the the consequences. If a poor man waste here, what will be the consequences? Don't just think about, oh, me deba to hold, it goes beyond that. There are so many ways of doing things, and we need to always go for the appropriate way to do things. It's not every day that you want somebody to be policing you to do the right thing. You can do the right thing. Whenever you want to sleep, you can sit on your bed and say, oh, I feel tired, I want to sleep. Why don't you do the same thing that, oh, I have waste here. I mean, there's a bubble here, let me give it to the person so that they will send it to the designated sites and dispose our waste rather than waiting and then pouring your waste, disposing them inappropriately. And at the end of the day, the consequences will come back to our society. So, we need to be more intentional about some of the things that we do. It's more to do with attitudes than government enforcement and any other issues. Just what I have to say on the question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Um, Joel, during disease outbreak, I mean, misinformation often spread just as fast as the disease itself. So, what are some common myths and misconception about cholera that people still believe, and how important is risk communication and community engagement in preventing misinformation and encouraging healthy behaviors?
Yes. So for myths and misconceptions and misinformation, I think, thank God, we have been exposed to cholera for a very long time. And for that matter, people are well inoculated when it comes to accurate information with regards to cholera. But I just wanted to pick on one misconception that normally people do have, and I think Jonathan did mention. that people always assume that once you have a gutter that is running and your house on your rubbish, why don't you just put it in there? Since it's water that is running, it will just carry it away to some place. And then because of these misconceptions, that is why we are, or that is why we have been experiencing some of these overflows. Because, for instance, you throw rubbish inside a gutter, all types of rubbish, you put all of them together tight, and then you drop them. And then once you do that, because our drains are covered, it goes to block. And it's in rubber. So the only thing is that it just needs water inside. It gets bloated, and then it goes to block a drainage. And once it does, any other matter that comes in terms of water doesn't have the what do you call it, any thoroughfare again. So what happens to the water? The water comes out, and then it goes back into the homes from where the rubbish were being released. And that is one of the misconceptions that we know the logic behind, but it is a fallacy. So it's important that people really understand some of these behaviors that they do and then the consequences. We all understand that, of course, in terms of waste management, because of the way we build our homes of late, there is no any virgin land that is there that maybe you could probably just burn your own rubbish within your home. So everybody is more or less like accumulating it on their own and waiting for a waste disposal, what do you call it, company or government to come and pick it up. But I think that is important that we begin to revisit those days where at least everybody was being responsible for his own environment. And I think once we do that, everybody takes what do you call it, his or her own environment into as his responsibility. I think we will go a way ahead in terms of how we manage our sanitation. And I was glad that at least for I mean subsequent governments have come and then have tried to instill in us that behavior or discipline of ensuring that we clean our environment. And I think that this we should pick it up and then ensure that it's been sustained so that at least we can be able to save ourselves from some of the consequences that we actually experienced during the recent flooding. So, and just to also mention that in terms of risk communication, we are also out there because even though we have not recorded any myths, misconceptions, or misinformation as far as cholera is concerned, we are still out there. And then since our colleagues are also on, it's important that whatever misconceptions or behaviors that people are doing that puts us at risk, let's share so that we can be able to pick it and then probably help, not by enforcement, but I think that the best way is community engagement. And then once we are able to engage and then let them understand what they are doing and then the consequences, I think that we should be able to have a consensus and then a consensus in terms of the right behavior to adapt. And I think that once we do that, we will be able to gain a lot of strides. Thank you, and then over.
All right, Joel, quickly, what are some of the warning signs and symptoms of cholera that people should never ignore? And what should someone do immediately if they suspect cholera in themselves or in a family member?
Hello.
Yes, Joel. Joel, so I was asking some of the warning signs and symptoms of cholera.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. That people should never
Good. So
ignore.
right. So I will give you one cardinal one is acute watery diarrhea. So the acute water diarrhea, so like sudden onset, and then this water diarrhea we're talking about effortless. So the type that sometimes you want to actually hold and you can't hold, it's just coming. And then what do you call it? Normally, when you have a look at it, more or less like it's like rice. I don't know, but I don't know how many of us have seen rice water, but normally that's how it is. And once you begin to see such coupled with stomach upset, you don't have to stay. Quickly report to the nearest health facility. And remember that normally what we do is that we pick signals, and I'm just giving you the signal. So normally it's through laboratory that like they can be able to determine whether whatever that you're experiencing is cholera or otherwise, so that they can be able to provide you the right assistance. So once you have stomach upset coupled with what do you call it? Sometimes there's vomiting coupled with acute watery diarrhea, which seems like rice water like, and then vomiting at the same time. Please don't stay at home. And cholera kills. And then once you stay at home and then you're not going to a health facility, you lose a lot of fluids. And remember, I said it's diarrhea. So once you don't go to the health facility, you lose a lot of fluids. And then you could actually be in a very fatal situation if not. So once you begin to experience some of these signs and symptoms, any one of them, it's important that you report to the nearest health facility so that they can be able to take samples and then also provide you with the right care. Over.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joel, for this information. Jonathan, before we end, what is your key environmental sanitation message to Ghanaians following the recent flood? And also, if every community could implement just one sanitation measure immediately, what would you encourage them to do?
Hello, Prince. Thank you once again. And you know, growing up, we saw our traditional leaders being and playing a critical role in the development of our various communities. And when you look at the 2008 Section 63 of the Chieftaincy Act, Act 759, it says that anybody who decide not to attend a communal labor called by a chief within a community commits a crime. So they had that power, and that power still exists. So I believe that the role of our traditional leaders in our current dispensation is very critical, especially when it comes to sanitation. You know, they are the custodians of our lands, and the people listens to them. So once our traditional leaders takes this initiative up and ensure that every individual living in our communities, do not commit environmental sanitation offenses, we will see our communities becoming cleaner, safer, and environmentally, aesthetic. We need to enforce. We need to encourage our chiefs to. We need to also encourage our chiefs to be more to be also be supporting us in the form of also achieving some of these objectives. But then also one of the slogans that we've had since the era of Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources is play your part, let's clean Ghana. We believe that cleaning of the country is a collective effort. It's not government. Individual comes to board. Our communities come to board. Our religious and non-religious bodies also come to board, so that we collectively come together and clean our society. You know, when you look at the various assemblies, the assemblies have the environmental health and sanitation units under them. These officers, as part of their routine house-to-house inspection, goes to the various households and inspects their households. When they see nuisance is anything that has the potential of causing harm to the inhabitant or the community, they prompt They prompt
Ju-
them, yes, sorry, they prompt them to eradicate them so that it doesn't become injurious to people living in the society. So the approach has always been that we have health inspectors where that we mostly refer to as sama sama. People keep saying that sama sama people they are there. They are working within the various assemblies. They are there. They are effective. They play their role and they do the inspection. Joel made mention of food safety, where they visit our various restaurants, our chop bars, our drinking bars to also ensure that environmental sanitation measures are put in place so that when you go and you want to take your thoughts, I mean, you can take your thoughts peacefully without even, I mean, getting contaminated or getting infection from the place that you went to take your two thoughts. So these are things, these are measures that we have in place. And then the public education. As part of the inspection, they provide education to the public. They educate the public on how to dispose waste, to treat their water, to wash their hands. These are some of the things. But I believe that as a society, we need to come together and say that no, we want to achieve this objective so that together we can achieve it. When we came together over the last weekend to do the cleanup, we saw the impact. A lot of people contributed. These are some of the things that we want to see in Ghanaians. We can do it. We've done it before. So we need to bring that kind of zeal back to be able to also effect changes in our society. So at the end of the day, what the message I want to leave with, I want everybody on this call to take along is that it's a collective effort. Let's play our part. And yes, let's change from our way of always waiting for the rain so that we can dispose our garbage into the gutters. Let's stop the act of, I mean, defecating a polythene bag and then packaging and throwing it to the nearby bushes. I mean, these are things that we can desist from. So together we can always make changes, reflect the changes we want to see in our society. Thank you and over.
Jonathan, the someone, I'm sure they are the same as the tankers, right?
Yes, I mean the environmental health officers are called sama tankers. So that's
Oh,
the
okay.
name.
Somebody was asking in the comment section. I mean, back in the days, there were a lot of them coming into our homes. I mean, when they see some mud, like anything, they will just, I mean, sometimes they can even arrest you for that. Back in Kumasi, I remember an incident where they arrested one of our housemen. But I mean, how come we are not feeling their presence nowadays?
Yes, the Sama has been there, and they have also been in the system. I mean, of course, the population has outgrown the number of officers we have. So when we
Okay.
look at the officers we have in the country, we have around 5,000 environmental health officers across the country. And when you do the population to environmental health officer ratio, you are looking at around 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people per one officer. So the gap is huge, and there are districts where the posting challenges because the place is not developed. When you send people there, they don't want to go, and they want to always go to the urban areas. These are some of the issues that we have, and we are looking for the appropriate ways to address it. But the officers are there, and they are even in Ashanti region. The mayor mentioned last week that they want to take some people to court, and then they are arresting of stray animals. These are things that are stated in the Public Health Act, and it gives the assemblies the mandate to do that. And they have their bylaws to support any actions that they want to take, provided their bylaws are gazetted, recognized under the rule of law that, I mean, this is a bylaw, this is an instrument or a document that can be used. So environmental health officers are there. They are working within the various districts. The Sama tankers people are still there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for this. Joel, quickly, let me give you the final word. What is your key public health message to Ghanaians as communities recover from the recent flood?
Hand washing is the deal. So we should try and then ensure that we wash our hands at all times. And then in terms of the food that we do consume, we should, yes, we should consume hot food, because we are not sure of what do you call it, where, especially if you are not sure of where the food is coming from, or we are not, sure of the environment. So we should try to ensure that our food is always hot, so that we are being protected from water. And then our water also should be treated, especially we those who buy water from what do you call it, other sources, or we those who don't depend on water from the Ghana water and sewage, and then we buy from the tanks and stuff. Let's always ensure that our water is well treated before we consume. So I think these are the key things. And I also want to mention that within this period, because we are still in the rainy season, so we are not still out of the cholera, what do you call it, risk period or diarrheal diseases. So it's important that we still look out for some of the signs and symptoms. So, like I mentioned earlier on, when you see somebody experiencing any acute, and acute is like a sudden, what do you call, diarrhea, which is more or less like it effortless. It just come in. Sometimes you always want to stop it, but still, and
Yeah.
it's like rice water, and then you have stomach upset and also vomiting. Please don't stay at home. Please don't stay at home. Report to the nearest health facility so that what do you call it? The health officers can what do you call it? Find a way of supporting you. And let me warn that cholera is very very infectious. So when you experience, please report. That is why we want to, because if it so happens that somebody or your situation is cholera, that means that from where you were staying, the people that you contacted, the people that you came in contact with, sorry, and then the taxi or whatever vehicle that you entered are all contaminated. And then we will need to ensure that we condone all those things, and then actually ensure that they are, what do you call it, disinfected before. So please, let's not joke within this period, and then let's ensure that in terms of our infection prevention methods, we try to ensure that. Thank you, and then over.
Thank
And
you
thank you for the
so
opportunity.
much. Yes, thank you so much for coming. Patience, can you hear me? Patience. Okay. It looks like Patience it's not around. But gentlemen, thank you so much for this enlightening discussion. We are very grateful. And to everyone watching tonight, remember this. Floods may be a natural disaster, but cholera is largely preventable. Let's keep our surrounding clean. Let's wash our hands regularly. Let's drink safe water. Let's dispose of waste properly. And let's seek medical care immediately if anyone develops symptoms. Floods don't have to become funerals. When sanitation improves, diseases decline. When community unites, outbreaks can be prevented. And when every Ghanaian take responsibility, cholera doesn't stand a chance. Protect your environment, protect your family, and protect Ghana. Together, we can stop cholera before it even starts. So, thank you so much for joining tonight's discussion. And this has been the Good Life chat room of the Ghana Health Service. Kindly follow our pages, which is Ghana Health Service and Good Life GH on all our social media platforms. Next week, we will be talking about hepatitis. Yes, on the 28th of this month, it's World Hepatitis Day. So from next week going, we have dedicate the whole Friday to talk about hepatitis, and there will be some radio and TV discussion throughout the weeks, and there will be some free screening in our regional hospitals and our teaching hospitals. So if you want to know your state, in fact, this is not even if, try and know your status so that if you have it, it can be prevented, whether the B or C. If you have the C, it can be treated and it can be cured. If the B2 you have it, it can be treated and you can take the vaccines that are available. So take this opportunity to go to any regional hospital and any teaching hospital to get a free screening. And next week, yes, we will have Ochami Kwame too coming on the show, so don't miss it. Try and be part of this conversation, and it might save you. So thank you so much for joining tonight. We are grateful for everyone coming, and see you next week. Thank you and bye bye.